Hello and welcome to the studio again. Today we are piecing the large arc for block 4 of the Almond Country Beauty block of the month. You can see that this one has split points, so there's just one extra step in here. The supplies that you'll need for this are, of course, your foundation paper pieced or printed arc. Mine is printed on Carol Doak's foundation paper piecing paper, so it's nice and thin, but copy paper will work if that's what you have. Background fabrics and point fabrics cut per the instructions, pair of scissors, and if you like a really clean seam allowance that's a perfect 1/4 of an inch, you need a little marker with a ruler with a 1/4 inch mark. Okay, and now in the other blocks, the backgrounds were all odd. In this case, they will not be. But you can clearly see that the points are the split and the backgrounds are the solids. So, also, in case you didn't watch the other videos, we always work from the back so that we can see clearly the lines that we want to sew on. So fabric is positioned on the back. Piece 1, I like to bring it up to the line here and then slip it over a 1/4 of an inch. I make sure I have extra at the top and the bottom, and I think you can see that line right here, right underneath here. So that means I've got a nice 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to get my first point fabric and lay it directly on top of that gray fabric, of my background fabric. Flip this over, put this in the machine, and sew it on the line between piece 1 and piece 2. Now I have to make a little adjustment here because I can see underneath that when I flip this over, I didn't hold it tight enough. So if you have that problem, put a little pin in it or just hold it tighter. Okay, we're going to open and press. Now again, if you like that nice clean seam allowance, that's a perfect 1/4 of an inch, you're going to fold your paper back along the line between 2 and 3. Put your ruler on here, line your 1/4 inch mark up with the crease in the paper. You can mark this. I'm using a Hera marker here. And then trim that extra away. Okay, so I have my first background and half of my first point in place. I know that my second background piece is going to lay perfectly, my point piece is going to lay perfectly across there because I've got my seam allowance just right. Okay, so flip it over. And now I'm going to sew this line right down the middle, the split between 2 and 3. Okay, open and press. And now I'm ready for my next background fabric. I'm going to not fuss with the seam allowance that much. So I'm going to go back to the same way that I showed you before. I'm going to put my fabric right along that line that I can see through here and then shimmy this over a 1/4 of an inch in the machine. And now I'm sewing between 3 and 4. Oh, or maybe I'm not. Okay, flip that over, trim this away. And then I'm just going to open and press. And I have my first beautiful set of points that are 2 colors. One thing to note about this is that you can see 1, 2, 3 seams came to a head right here along this line, and that's okay. It's a little bulky there, but it's okay, so don't worry about that. And if you watch the rest of the videos, you have a really good idea of how this is going to work. So I'm just going to time lapse this so that you can see the whole process, and I will meet you back here when it's finished. Okay, and there you have it, a beautiful arc with split points. So now all that's left is to trim away the paper on the light cutting line, not the heavy sewing line, and remove the paper from this piece. If you like to keep it until the end, keep it, but I'm going to take mine out now. So I hope that helped.